What is going on, fellow streamers? Welcome into another edition of StreamerSZN, Underground Sports Philadelphia's exclusive TV and movie podcast for streaming platforms. It's your boy KB and the homie Dylan. The Cowabunga boys are here. And Dylan, I know it's Moon Knight season for us, but we are also going to be talking about a show that is on our little horizontal spread across the bottom line there. Brand new stuff for the YouTubes, which you guys should be subscribed to, so you can watch full video episodes of StreamerSZN and all your favorite Underground Sports Philadelphia shows. Our demographic is either going to spike up in the Baltimore area over the next 6 weeks or be very confused as to two white nerdy guys talking about We Own This City. Because this show is electric. We're going to get into that later on in the show. But of course, it is Moon Knight season. We're going to get into episode 5, our full-blown breakdown. And then, of course, everybody's favorite segment, the Streaming Platform Multiverse news and notes. But before we get started, make sure you're following us on the socials. We've had a bunch of new followers come through since our tweet about We Own This City went kind of viral for StreamerSZN standards. So follow us at StreamerSZN. It's right there at the top above Dylan's head. On Twitter, Instagram, follow Dylan on Twitter at Dylan Mazzola. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feeds, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. Just because we're on YouTube doesn't mean those go away. They're still there. Help support us there. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. We're still cooking in Saudi Arabia and in Austria on those top 200 charts. So shout out to our listeners there. And of course, like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just search Underground Sports Philadelphia on YouTube, and you will get full video episodes of StreamerSZN each and every week with myself and Dylan talking about your favorite shows and movies on your favorite streaming platforms.
Yes, sir.
Big thank you to our sponsors who make this John happen. Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. You guys can go to tomahawkshades.com. Use our code USP for 25% off your entire order at tomahawkshades.com. Kenwood Beer, go to kenwoodbeer.com. It's Dylan's favorite beverage of choice when he's watching his favorite shows and movies. Kenwoodbeer.com. Use the Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And of course, please drink responsibly. And the homies over at Bino. Go to binoboard.com. Dylan, I don't know if I told you this or not. We got 2 boards coming to the office.
You did not tell me. This is first
2
time.
boards are on the way. They will be here Friday. And I've been talking with some peeps, thinking about potentially starting a content piece for the YouTube, having a Underground Sports Bino League. Might be in the works. So stay tuned for that. That will be on our YouTube if it does come to fruition. But you guys can go to binoboard.com. That's BINHOBOARD.com and use our code BINOUSP for 10% off your boards, your accessories. The World Cup Team USA boards are sold out. So if you didn't get yours, sorry about your luck. Their shirts are still available, though, for Team USA, which I definitely want to get my hands on. Long sleeve white shirt. Looks very clean. So go to binoboard.com and use code BINOUSP for 10% off your order. Dylan, let's get into Moon Knight episode 5, The Asylum. I watched this episode at around 3:30 in the morning.
Pretty fitting for the confines of the episode.
I was not emotionally prepared for what went down in this episode. Let's dive into it. Because, first of all, was that opening the most, quick-witted opening of all time, where Layla's yelling, then it goes to our favorite hippo goddess yelling, and we're in this asylum, Steven and Mark talking to each other, and it was just the beginning of an emotional roller coaster from there, and what a perfect way to start it then with just a bunch of screaming.
Yeah, I watched it a little bit later than you did, not that early in the morning. So when I saw your tweet from the account and I got your text personally saying "Holy crap, emotional roller coaster," when I started watching it, I'm like, okay, and it gets to a point where I'm like, oh, that's what Kyle was referring to. Yeah. So no, it was definitely a heavy hitter. The last two, not the last two, but the Loki and Moon Knight, and I guess WandaVision
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a decent job at bringing some like extra added like emotion and emotional damage, as that TikTok trend says, to
Yeah.
uh, to the show.
I felt after watching this episode, I felt like the new TikTok sound that is literally a year-old soundbite. I curse a little. What's your favorite word? Probably fuck,
Oh,
because I was screaming fuck throughout this entire episode. Um, just a like we said, it was this episode you could literally define it as an emotional roller coaster because it takes you through so many ups and downs of just the life of Mark Spector and Stephen Grant, and like ties a lot of ends together in terms of just like figuring out who they are. And you come to find out that like this asylum that we were brought to last episode is basically like it is hell. And Dylan and I brought that up on the last episode. Like they are in like hell for themselves, the underworld. And what did your jaw do when our favorite hippo goddess mentioned the ancestral plane?
I was like, I actually not even the jaw. It was the
It was the Leo meme,
yeah.
which we bring up a ton on this show.
I was like, I get that. No,
I was sitting and I said, "Huh?"
no, dude. It was interesting for them to just and it was very subtle. It wasn't like she made a
Yes.
big point. She was talking about how cool it looked.
She
And
said,
then-
"Oh, the ancestral plane," and I was like, "Oh my god, they did the thing! They
Yeah,
tied
well,
it to
they
Black
tied it-
Panther."
Yeah, tagging it. It was just a cool little Easter egg, and it was the whole opening was interesting when like you're going through like Kyle said the transition, and then I really just liked it wasn't that far in I believe when you finally see like what the outside looks like when Mark's freaking out and he's like, oh, if I go out these doors right now it's gonna be like more hospital, and then he's like, oh, never mind. Like,
And then the Lonely Island came up, and we were on a boat.
yeah.
It brought me back to our.
For spoilers, no, or spoilers without spoiling. Like,
It brought me back to our states practices in high school for swimming when all we would do was just blast the Lonely Island. I was like, oh, there's the boat, because we've seen that in promotional footage, and I was kind of waiting of like, when are we going to see this boat? And then I was kind of grossed out when Tuara reaches into both of them and pulls out these stone hearts, and I was like, oh god, oh god.
you probably get this reference. You've seen all the Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
Kalima.
Which then my brain hearing that just went to Rick and Morty when they have the battle of the planet. Show me what you've got.
Yeah, definitely major Kalima vibes.
Yeah.
She went straight and she just yanked out their hearts. Then proceeded to put it on the scale, which was a very interesting part. I think you and probably anybody else who was on to the Jake thing, I was thinking this would be the episode. Maybe they introduce him because like you have to find yourself and weigh the scales. And I was like, okay, well then if you have a missing third incognito personality, is he on the scales? You know what
Which
I mean?
we did get more Easter eggs. If you watch closely, there are a few moments where they tease Jake again in this episode, which we'll get on to later on in the episode. And as of today, Oscar Isaac has confirmed that we will find out who is in the red sarcophagus from episode 4.
Yeah, I think they almost teased it when he was first talking to the doctor and getting kind of aggressive, and he
Yes.
almost sounded he look his facial expression looked different than that of Mark and Steven.
And then he picks up the weapon. Which,
Yeah,
if you remember back from episode 3, it wasn't me. Then who was it? More aggressive, more,
Well,
you know.
this is. I mean, we'll talk about this more, but at the end of the episode, obviously, the scales, spoiler, get weighed. So it just makes you think. Going back to Jake, he's so hidden then that he doesn't. You know what I mean? That's the part that I don't really understand with it, and hopefully they'll explore that.
There's that, and then the moment when he's outside of the building and he's, a little intoxicated as well. He's in front of a taxi cab, which is obviously a little nod to Jake Lockley as well, since he is a taxi driver. But yeah, dude, the visuals in this show when they are in the parts that are ancient Egypt are just so spectacular, and the way that they've pulled these things off, like when the boat shows up and, you know, when they get everything rocking and rolling with, you know, balancing the scales and figuring out, you know, what they have to do to survive and everything. It's just so fascinating how they've been able to pull off all of these visuals.
Yeah, dude, I really like the visuals in this one. I was really enjoying just going from, you know, like Asylum with the all white like design with like some loose Egyptian stuff to like literally, you know, in the underworld of Egypt on a boat in a sea of sand with like the night sky. Kind of, well, ironically enough, obviously, it's similar vibes to the ancestral plane in terms of like beautiful sky, not so much beautiful setting. And I just liked the design. It's just interesting to me because I feel like in modern media, you only have a handful of movies that I can think of off the top of my head, and there's obviously tons. I'm not that have done up like Egyptian culture and like have shown it, and like a lot of them aren't truly even about Egypt. Like you have like one of the most famous. I make the joke all the time is probably the Mummy because like the go. But I'm not even sure. Like I'm pretty sure he's in Egypt. Yeah, I think he is. But not all the movies are in Egypt though. So it's like, you know what I mean. So it's like it's cool that this show is embracing its culture and it's introducing music, fashion, aesthetics in a nice way, and also I guess like literally the underground as well because Mark's dead.
So yeah, Tuara tells them that they need to dive deeper into their memories and find the truth, otherwise their souls will be destroyed. And exploring their memories in the hospital, they come across a room full of dead people, and Mark Spector recognizes them as criminals he killed by Khonshu's orders, and Mark admits that their deaths weighed on them for a while, and the scales start to slow down, start to balance, and it's like, okay, he's kind of coming to terms with some of the things he's done. Then Steven suddenly sees a little boy and follows him into another memory. And it turns out that the boy...
Oh, damn it.
Man, listen. Can we get young Moon Knight in the Young Avengers? Like, my goodness. The boy was young Spectre living a happy life with his mother, Wendy, who might be the worst mom of all time, his father, Elias, and brother, Randall. The existence of the latter becomes a shock for Steven. And then the Spector brothers go playing in a cave, reenacting the scene from Tomb Buster, which for me, I felt like I was watching Bridge to Terabithia, because, god damn it. Then the Spector brothers, the cave gets flooded and Randall drowns to his death.
Both deaths did involve rapid rising of water.
Yeah, I immediately went back there, and for some sick, twisted reason, I think it's because I was reading the book in school at the time, I saw that movie in the movie theater. My goodness, that movie is probably the reason that I will need therapy at some point.
Hey, everyone can use it, but now that movie is demented. It's funny because up until the water, like when they first showed the cave, I was like, oh, cool, like a giant rock's going to roll down like Indiana Jones. Cool. And then Steven looks at the ground, and then you're like, oh, never mind.
I was like, son of a bitch.
It was good, though, because you knew exactly what was going to happen. That's good. That's good storytelling. Like, you saw the water in the cave, and you were like, yikes.
So then Steven then sees that Wendy blamed Mark for Randall's death and grew to despise him. Although Steven remembered her differently, Mark stops Steven, saying that he does not want to see... he doesn't want to relive these memories again. And while Steven comes across another memory where Spectre leaves the family house despite his dad's pleas, they see a memory of his raid on a dig site as well, during which Raoul Bushman murdered Layla's dad and tried to kill Mark. And then a dying Spectre crawls inside Khonshu's temple, where the lunar god offers him a life in exchange of becoming Khonshu's warrior, which is from the comics directly. Like, that whole scene is straight from the comics, which was really cool to see. And then when he's leaving, he comes back, figures out that his mom is dead as well. And that's when we get the next Jake Lockley kind of teaser when he's in front of that taxi cab. And they also do the really cool thing, which a lot of people were concerned about, because obviously Oscar Isaac is not Jewish, but Mark Spector and Stephen Grant and everything in the comics are. They played into that. He had his yarmulke and everything and was just like beside himself throughout this whole And my goodness, like it was like I was like feeling so hard. Like if Oscar Isaac does not win some sort of award for this acting he has done in this show, something's wrong.
Yeah, and I think this kind of is like a point that Marvel, if you please watch the show, that'd be awesome. You can go out and bring big name actors for these obscure random projects, and they hit home. I named the three, and it's by design. The three Marvel shows I named so far have given us good quality acting and good emotion, and I'm sure that trend will go, carry on. And I'm sure we'll also get ones where Kyle and I don't like as much because it'll be more action, more of like buddy cop action movie.
And even buddy cop wise, like we got a lot of emotion and a lot of different emotion from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier when it came
Yes.
to, race and,
Yes.
diversity and everything. So that also hit pretty hard on the scale of like the way that phase 4 of the MCU has been going, which is like emotional trauma, grief, and like just hitting you right in the feels.
Yeah, it's just basically proving that every individual still alive needs copious amounts of therapy. That's just Kevin Feige is a sick man. No, but no, it's interesting, and Oscar Isaac's, yeah, you're 100% right. He definitely deserves at least recognition at the end of the day for the work he's putting in, and also Ethan Hawke, because
yes,
I love his like creepy nice like doctor that he's playing right now. It's not even his actual character.
Yeah,
it's like a sub character, and it's very entertaining.
Yeah, he's done like everybody in this cast has been cast perfectly. And we kind of said it from the jump once we watched episode 1. We were like blown away by the casting and like the way that they've been able to portray these characters. And so far, like this is like creme de la creme of casting jobs by Marvel for their TV properties. And it just week after week has continued to blow us away with just the storytelling that they've been able to pull off. But then we also get the very first name drop of Moon Knight in the MCU from Khonshu when he says, "You will become my Moon Knight." And I said, "Let's go, let's ride." Like it was like that moment when you hear a hero or a villain's, alter ego name get dropped for the first time, their hero or villain name. I don't know about I get juiced up when I hear it. Like when I recently watched Daredevil, obviously for the hardcore listeners of the show know I went on my Daredevil run. When you see his name in the newspaper, it's like, oh shit, like it's about to go, to the next level now. Like once that identity gets name dropped, it feels like, okay, like this character has now arrived in this universe.
Yeah, no, it was a great name drop. I mean, you see that Mark is literally about to kill himself, and then that's when Khonshu steps in. So, also, red flags also on Khonshu's part. my man was like probably sitting there like, is he gonna do it? Nah, all right, I'll say something.
The other thing that I took away from that scene too, and like that just kept running through my brain, especially since we recently obviously saw the Batman in theaters, and we lied. We'll do our review later on once Moon Knight's done for the people, because We Own This City has just taken over our Twitter, but our Batman official review will come soon. That whole movie, like Bob Pattinson is going, I am vengeance, and it plays into, funny enough, like we talked about this when we previewed Moon Knight to give people kind of a rundown of who the character was, what the base story is. It was Marvel's response to Batman, and hearing like Khonshu's vengeance, it was like, oh, there's the Batman parallels, and it's very cool to kind of hear that in the MCU and then still continue to play with the vengeance tag.
Yeah, it's a good little comparison because they are one and the same. They are very similar character designs. I mean, there are some versions of Moon Knight that's literally just Batman, but just crazier. So yeah, no, it's very cool. Also, I cannot wait to review that. But like Kyle said, we have other things to talk about.
We also get, Steven kind of questioning everything about his life in this episode where, was he created to, help Mark hide from the pain? Was he created to punish it?
And it was hints how long he was alive. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
He's like, I remember this, and I'm like, how the hell do you? Oh, like.
And then we get a memory of young Mark Spector in his bedroom, hiding from his mom. And due to the stress she puts on him, boom, develops that personality. We see Steven come to life for the very first time.
I think it's creepy watching the kid do it.
Oh my god, it was so well done, but like you said, so creepy.
It is creepy because imagine, like, his mom probably heard him talk in a British accent before and just thought, oh, he's a little kid, I hate him, like, didn't think anything of it. So, like, unless it's revealed later that his parents knew he had multiple personalities, like, they had no idea because he kept it so hidden. You know what I mean? Also, well, I guess this is a red flag for a military in the Marvel universe, but he was able to become a Marine with 2 personalities, so or 3 technically.
If not more. And then, the big takeaway there too is like this show is the first, in my opinion, of all the MCU shows we've gotten on Disney Plus, excluding Netflix properties brought over, that has really given us like that next level of like violence. And you and I are both fans of that. We think they need to go more into that in terms of just like don't be afraid of it if it helps tell the story.
You're trying to cater an adult audience, so like PG-13 or like I'll say even like 14 up. You have to go you don't have to go extremely graphic, or we don't need like Game of Thrones level stuff. But
you don't always have to show the act on screen, but
you do need to at least lead up to the act and then cut away from it, because it's just realism. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's no one wants to see like it's campy, obviously, like the Adam West Batman, but we don't want to see that. Like, kapow!
And we say this in a sense of like, if it helps tell the story,
yes,
do it. But if it's doing it just to do it, there's no point. But I think like seeing the emotional trauma that Mark's mom put him through because of, his brother passing away, it really helps depict like the evolution of Mark as a person, the evolution of bringing Steven to life, the potential for Jake Lockley coming to life, which the way I'm thinking about it now and the way the MCU has now portrayed like this portion of the story of Moon Knight, Jake Lockley, which you and I both full-heartedly agree is going to show up next week, is probably the alter formulation of the trauma of his mother, where Steven was like kind of trying to hide things. It was the adventure that he went on with his brother.
You're saying that was like the pent up rage,
and Jake Lockley's like the pent up rage, the anger, the aggression that comes out, because we've seen now in multiple instances where Jake Lockley is a stone cold killer.
Yeah. It's crazy too, because you haven't it's just crazy to think that there's that lurking, but that does make sense. That's a good take, and I like that.
That just popped in my head now, and I hope.
Yeah, it was actually so good that I forgot what I was just about to say before that.
But yeah, so we get that, and we see that like Stephen Grant is the guy from Toonbuster as well.
I was just gonna agree with you about like the whole going like darker thing. It makes sense because it's true to the source material. So you mentioned Batman. That's not Marvel, but it's DC.
Mm-hmm.
Darker movie. Moon Knight, darker. It's like how we know Deadpool is going to get a sequel. Even if they recast Wolverine, all these heroes, anti-heroes, whatever you want to call them or view them as, none of them would have a better movie if it was like washed down to the point where there was like minimal action and like no violence, no gore. And I'm not saying that because I don't want to see that, but it fits the mold of the character.
Yeah, 100%. And like it's that realm of the universe that Moon Knight kind of falls into place at, with the horror and the spectral kind of realm.
One of the best horror movie scenes of all time is when the alien pops through the guy's chest in Alien. If they didn't have that and it just cut to black and you heard like, and like you saw a little alien scurry away, that wouldn't be scary. There's a reason that scene is so iconic, because if our moms and dads saw that for the first time, they're pooping themselves. That shit was crazy, dude.
Plus, with you and I both being like strapped in for the Midnight Suns, like that's what that whole team up is like that horror aspect of things at the street level.
Yeah,
and
that's why I said Alien. That's that same kind of vibe. It's like sci-fi horror meets superhero.
So Spectre tells Steven that he was able to live a normal life, blissfully unaware of the suffering and of his mom's death, and he's like, what are you talking about? Like, she's not dead. And then he kind of comes to terms when he goes into the room with Dr. Harrow for the first time and realizes that his mom is dead. And then that's when we see, the funeral and everything. And Spectre and Grant are brought back to the boat. And, I think one of the most, like, heartwarming and, like, emotional moments of this episode was Steven telling Mark that it wasn't his fault.
That is what
got me so
But what got
bad.
me before that is the facial expressions of Steven realizing that Mark's not a bad person.
Yeah.
Because earlier, Steven's yelling at him. He's like, oh, I'm made up, which rightfully so. He realized he's not real. I'd be a little jaded too. I think we all would. But he's like yelling at him. They're going back and forth. But with a scene with his mother, or I guess their mother, it's kind of a weird thing to say, but you know what I mean? When he witnesses from his, like, Mark's point of view, and he sees how he comes out, and he's like happy and like, oh, I'm such a goofball, and like he's like, oh, that sucks, because he literally has been sheltered, and that's when it clicks for me and for him, like watching it. You know what I mean? Like he realizes Mark genuinely does care, like whether he made him intentionally or not because of all the additional trauma of his terrible mother. Regardless, Mark has sheltered him from that.
And that's kind of like Mark trying to protect his own self too. It's like, oh, let me switch to this, this alter that hasn't gone through this pain, hasn't gone through this trauma that, was inflicted upon me from my mom, from having to see my brother die in front of me because I brought him into this cave when, the rules were I shouldn't have done this. But then when Steven's like, yeah, it wasn't your fault, like that hit me so hard. And I was like, God damn, Marvel, Kevin Feige, you son of a gun.
You bastard.
You dirty bastard. Spectre and Grant are brought back to the boat where Tawaret tells them that the scales are still not balanced, which means they cannot go through the gates, and the unbalanced souls of people Spectre killed enter the boat. I was
expecting Jake to like pop up and have like that was the end of the episode, but there's too much time left, and I was like, what?
And they try to claim Mark's soul, but Steven manages to save him in time. However, one of the souls causes Steven to fall overboard as he freezes in the sands of Duat. And that, again, got me so good because we've grown to love and appreciate Steven Grant so much. And seeing him kind of freeze there and, you don't know what his fate is, leaves you like a piece of your heart's broken.
Yeah, I saw that coming from a mile away. Just because, like, it did the. I'm not sure if it's a cliche. I'm sure I can probably think of it, but the double fake. There you go. I couldn't think of it. Like the whole like, you think Mark's gonna die several times because his back's turned, and then you're like, oh, Steven's gonna die, and then you're like, oh no, Mark's gonna die, and then you're like, oh no, Steven died. Well, I guess double died.
Yeah,
like they're already dead.
And then Steven's sacrifice causes the scales to balance, which allows Mark to enter the field of reeds, which is the equivalent kind of for T'Challa in the ancestral plane. And
that place looked relaxing as hell.
My goodness, what a cliffhanger.
But can we take a second? That place, that field,
looked gorgeous.
Not so bad. Mark's probably like, you know what? I'm just going to stay here for a little bit.
Yeah. This ending puts me in a place where I truly don't know how this show is going to end next week.
Because if he's in that field, does that mean he is able to get through the gate, or does he have to go through the process of like passing over to heaven or the Egyptian heaven and then go through the gate? Or is he gonna like have to talk to more gods and like plead? Because if it were as easy both in real life, if you choose to believe that way, or in any fiction or movie or whatever. My point is, not so often when you die can you talk to your deity of choice and be like, yo, bro, I'm kind of a big deal up there or down there, depending upon where you fall on the scale.
Right.
Can I go back? Yeah, they're going to be like, no, not a chance, bro.
And like, we didn't have Layla in this episode, so we don't know what's going on with her and real Arthur Harrow. Like, there's still so many, like, open-ended questions going into the finale next week that I think the way they ended this episode, job well done, brilliant way to, like, leave you on your toes, because when it ended, I was literally sitting on my couch like, huh? That's how this ends? Just a spectacular way to end it off, and now, allegedly we're getting Jake Lockley next week. We still have to see, what Arthur Harrow's doing with Amit's, totem that he had, and are the rest of those gods going to get released, from the totems that they were kind of like frozen in stone in. And I kind of feel like Steven getting frozen like that was kind of a symbolism for what happened to the gods that are kind of in those cubicles.
Also, we forgot to mention or go in depth about like what's happening for next week is you see all the souls fucking coming down prematurely. So that means that whatever Harrow is doing upstairs relative to them, or downstairs, I don't know how Egyptian stuff works. Basically, he's killing a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So, right? There's no other way to interpret that. Mark's dead. The hippo goddess is seeing souls fall, and they're going right to the sand. Correct? That means they are unworthy because he has the power to do that. And who knows? He might have already released the other goddess by now.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed this, but it was the first thing that popped in my head when Steven and Mark were fighting those like dead people that were coming to drag them down. As soon as they like knocked them out, they boom into sand. And that's the same thing that happened to that jackal that Arthur Harrow released in episode 2. As soon as Mark got it on that spiral of that church, it disintegrated into sand. And I was like, that's interesting. I wonder where that jackal's from. Which, seeing this episode now, it's probably from the Duat.
Yeah, that's a good take. Folks, I think if anybody, well, obviously you watched this, you're listening. I think we're all collectively in agreement and disagreement in terms of we don't really know what's going to happen. There wasn't much breadcrumbs. It left you in a way where you're like, shit, one of our halves, one of our boys, our British boy, is dead, or not dead, but trapped. Well, he is dead, but you know what I mean? And then our other boy passed on to, like, the good place, Like, I think if it was to compare it to Greek, what do they call the good place in, was it in Hades' underworld? It's the Elysium, right? Is that the good place?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the nice, like...
Mount Olympus.
No, Mount Olympus, yeah, but Elysium's like a nice, like...
Oh, yeah.
Almost like a gated-in community, as everyone else suffers, like, right over there. You're like, yeah! But he got to, like, that area in Egyptian, like... So it's just... I don't know. I obviously like to think that he gets revived. That's my initial take before the show even started. It wouldn't be very exciting if he was still dead all next episode, because then that leads you to think he's going to pop up randomly, and that's kind of disorganized, or there'll be a second season, and we've heard no leaks of that.
Well, the only equivalent to a second season is like the Halloween special, which you and I both believe Moon Knight's going to show up in, but yes. I think that's more of just like a special appearance more so than a second season.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Like I think he gets revived. That's about the extent of my predictions. Like as to what I don't. This might not be a good guy like wins kind of vibe at the end of this. The show is not really going for that atmosphere. It's kind of recently. It's it's doing emotional damage and pain. And
something tells me next week we're gonna have the 3 altars together, and we're gonna see the 3 Moon Knight altars together, teaming up to fight like Harrow, who's juiced up by Amit, and Layla's gonna be there, and like it's gonna be one big giant Egyptian royale.
Big old battle.
Because we barely got any of like Mr. Knight, which is kind of unfortunate because I think that character arc is very cool, and I know this is a limited series, but I'm really hoping we get more Moon Knight because this show has been spectacular.
I think they're going to have to give us more Moon Knight because the show's getting pretty decent praise, and like it's getting it's well rated, and Oscar Isaacs is proving, well, we already knew this if you know his work, but proving yet again he can act. So everything lines up to see Moon Knight and more. He's on that Deadpool scale where in the comics he's a random ass character. So theoretically, if you introduce him a little bit better into the MCU, like going on what we're seeing, he can just randomly pop up. So,
What are your expectations for next week with the finale after seeing the first 5 episodes now? What are you hoping for the most? Like, give me your top 3 things that you really want to see happen to kind of close this book of Moon Knight out.
Number one, I think I speak for everyone, and also because my prediction, he's dead. I would like to see him get revived, obviously. Number two, I would like to see a additional suit. Potentially, that would be the Jake Lockley reveal. And then thirdly, I just want to know I just want to see the conclusion. I want to know if they're going to do like a concrete ending or if they're going to do very open-ended. Because like I said, right now, presumably Harrow and his following are just mass murdering or judging people. Or maybe the goddess is doing that. So regardless, it's one of those things like where like unless they do the whole like, oh, people were brainwashed kind of thing, like what are the other MCU heroes doing? Because like any of the ones that are alive, right, at this point, if they're cognizant and they're like watching the news and they're like, 100 people died randomly from Egypt today, and their bodies were found shriveled. You know, they were once 25 and now they look 95. You know what I mean? That's like, should we send a Quinjet over there? Like, you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. I think my takeaways that I want from next week is obviously Jake Lockley. We've been calling for it for the past couple of weeks now. Yeah, I want to see him get revived and also kind of like have that battle royale with I want that awesome epic Marvel we've come to know kind of trademark fight scene with, you know, Moon Knight and Harrow, whether, you know, potentially see Harrow get superpowers almost from Amit, whatever that may be, remains to be seen. And then it's a weird one, but I know every show we've gotten so far on Disney Plus has either given us a direct hint or a subtle hint to the next appearance of these characters we've seen.
Yeah.
And the thing that continues to stick with me is that after every episode of Moon Knight,
the moon?
It's like, well, no, not even that. Like, it's like, oh, you've watched Moon Knight, the title. Here's the next suggestion, and it's the Eternals. That's stuck with me throughout this entire show, and I'm really, really curious and hoping that Mark/Steven interacts with Dane Whitman from the Eternals, and then that kind of forges that bond to lead Moon Knight into that Black Knight MS-13 situation, and then that leads him to Blade for the Midnight Suns.
And that leads us to happy fans.
Big time. Because there is big news, Dylan, in our streaming platform multiverse of news and notes involving the MCU that we'll get to. But as we always do for our week-by-week show breakdowns, going to have Dylan guess the Rotten Tomatoes average rating and percentage score on this one, and then we will give our ratings for episode 5, The Asylum.
Yes, so I'm going to guess out of a 1 through 10 scale, I'm going to say an 8.6. And then for Rotten Tomatoes, I will say 90%. And then, to give my score, this is the highest one so far for this show, I give it a 9. I give it a 9. A 9.1.
Dylan?
What? Right on the money?
100% on the Rotten Tomatoes percentage scale.
Nice.
And on the 1 to 10 rating scale, 8.6 out of 10.
Yo, it feels good to be a gangster.
Let's go. This episode was unbelievable. Storytelling-wise, visual-wise, emotional-wise. One of the best, I think this is one of the best pieces of Marvel content we've gotten potentially ever. From start to finish.
I texted Tyler. He hasn't watched it yet. I said this was like a top 2 or 3 like MCU, like new era TV episode so far. No competition. And he was like, oh shit, really? And I was like, yes. I was
like it's on that emotional level of when Wanda like has to bring down the Hex. And it in my opinion, kind of tops it.
I think it tops it too, because this is one of the rare occasions in the MCU that shows their trauma, but like kind of digs into it more, and it shows you like a lot of the MCU characters have struggled and suffered. That's the whole point of being a superhero, overcoming it, blah blah blah. But like Mark is not a superhero,
right? He's a vigilante.
He's a vigilante, and it's interesting because his past didn't lead him to pick up tights and a cape and be a boy wonder. He didn't shoot webs out of his hands. Like he developed a second and presumably third personality, although Jake could have been developed for the Marines.
That's also true.
That could have how he survived. But also Mark's on a he's no slouch. But my point is, like, he developed different personalities. He literally feels responsible for his brother's death. He was bullied and beaten by his own mother. He went to war. That's PTSD. And he was a mercenary. So my man's seen some things. He's literally was going to kill himself and then became a deity's play pal, like play toy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to rank superheroes or vigilantes or MCU characters, but he's definitely on the upper scale of ones that have suffered a lot.
Yeah.
They do a great job of translating that into visuals.
Yeah, I think for my score on this episode, like, as much emotional trauma as it bestowed upon myself and Dylan, I'm giving this one a whopping 9.6 out of 10.
Woo!
This episode, it brought it all. It checked so many boxes and boxes that I didn't even know needed to be checked. And the way that it ended left a perfect opening for the way that this show can conclude next week. So I give it a 9.6 out of 10. Dylan, you gave it a 9.1. So for the people at home, some quick math there. That's 18.7 divided by 2, a 9.35, rounds up to a 9.4. Arguably one of the highest overall episode score rankings we've ever given. Yes, and then next week, we will have the finale of Moon Knight, which we will give our episode and our show score, which will be very exciting to add to our list because it's been a while since we've given a full show score. It's been since the Book of Boba Fett, so we will have our full show score for you next week with Moon Knight. Hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, the Book of Mando. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Moon Knight, but we are going to move on to a show that I think could potentially spark plug this podcast because the response we have gotten from tweeting out the trailer to We Own This City on HBO has been bananas and very, like, in a good way, overwhelming because it was just a tweet like, this is a show that I saw on a YouTube trailer, told Dylan about. We watched the trailer and we're like, yeah, this show is, like, awesome, looks really good. And it's blown up with fans of The Wire, rightfully so, same producers, a lot of the same actors coming back. I have not watched The Wire. I'm going to preface this. I have not seen The Wire.
Is a good... I actually just recommended The Wire to my one buddy. He wanted to watch this show. And I was like, watch The Wire. And today we were at the gym and he was like, thanks, asshole. And I was like, what? He's like, I stay up till 3 o'clock watching The Wire. It's the best show I've ever watched. And I was like, well, you're welcome.
So I'm going to preface this for any new listeners or viewers that we do gain from this. I have not seen The Wire yet. I know the premise of The Wire. I was talking to Matt about it tonight, actually, before our show recording. It is something that has been on my list of things to watch. It's just a matter of having the time to dedicate to a show that lengthy to be able to watch and binge. But it is on my list of things to watch. I'm excited that I'm getting a chance to watch We Own This City first.
Yeah, you're already better than me. For anyone listening, I apologize. I have not been able to watch it yet. It looks electric, and this is where Kyle's going to take it away. I'm just here to shake my head and say, yep, because I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so our We Own This City segment's going to be brought to you by our pals over at Binho Board. Go to binhoboard.com. and use our code BINHOUSP, that's BINHO USP, for 10% off your order at binhoboard.com. It's set in Baltimore again, like The Wire. It's a about the police, drugs, violence, all that kind of stuff, like The Wire. The timeline, to give you an idea, Dylan, is remember back a few years ago when the Baltimore Orioles were playing in front of a stadium with no fans in it, and this was before the panorama began, because of the Freddie Gray incident that happened.
It's set. Okay,
It's set in this era. So the show begins in 2017 when they're introducing things, and then there's a moment where it says 2 years prior, 2 years previously, and it comes back to 2015. And there's a lot of just like very like sitting and watching the show in 2022 and knowing what's happened over the course of the last 6-7 years. It's funny to hear some of the dialogue in this show where, they walk in and it's like, you better hope Hillary gets elected. And then the guy goes, Trump's not even going to get the nomination. What do you mean? And then you're just sitting here like, oh, buddy, you don't know what you're in for.
I have news for you, sir.
Newsflash. A lot of people have been quote tweeting our tweet saying, oh, Marlowe's a cop now. Marlowe's an op. Marlowe's with the 12. What the fuck? Granted, I have not seen The Wire, like I said. But from this episode, he's not really too involved in episode 1 in terms of everything going on. He's kind of a behind the desk detective type situation for who the actor is. It's pretty much based on like, dirty cops infiltrating the Baltimore Police Department. Post Freddie Gray, it's you see kind of that spark and rise of social media and, viral police brutality videos going onto the internet and people seeing parts of things, but not the whole thing. And talking about how once the Freddie Gray incident happened, arrests in Baltimore have been down like 60%. So it's like, they're wondering what the hell's going on with cops, not policing the streets properly. And then you have these dirty cops on the side going and trying to find drugs, guns, and everything to get promoted within the Baltimore Police Department. Let me tell you, dude, our guy, John Bernthal, holy shit. What a masterclass performance he is putting on for this show. And granted, we've only seen the first episode. Yeah. But he is, it's a couple weeks ago, I think an article came out about how he method acts and everything. It's such a polar opposite of the way that he portrays the Punisher, and in all the best ways. It's so cool to watch him in this role because it's like you love John Bernthal, but his character's a scumbag, and it's so cool.
Like, and don't get it twisted. I understand. I will say I love John Bernthal, but I do not support the character that he looks to be in the show. I haven't watched it yet, but I knew second seeing the hairdo and the accent, I was like, yuck.
He kind of has a Delco accent in the beginning, too.
This guy's up for no fucking good, man.
Hey, there's no good going on down here in the streets of Baltimore, so, I mean...
Bro. Give me a hoagie.
So We Own the City, it seems to question, not whether good policing exists, but whether the current system makes it impossible to exist. And, it opens up with John Bernthal's character kind of talking to a room full of police officers and kind of like giving them a rundown of like, hey, you go out and do this, you go get promoted. And, you go find the guns, you find the drugs. That's the good stuff to go find and you get promoted. It shows a ton of like just the dirty cop tactics, and it's so
listening, by the way, if you don't know what a Delco accent is, although if you're local you probably would know what a Delco accent is. Just what's that show that what's her face is in about Philly?
Hey, Mary Easttown.
Yeah, Google that or just Google Delco.
That's another HBO banger.
Just Google Delco on YouTube. I'm sorry for what you may find, but you will understand that Kyle is doing a pretty good spot on. So Kyle,
this Delco KB right here for you folks.
All right, well let's enough of that. Let's just go back to the review.
But I mean, the way that they shot this show, the acting in the show is unbelievable. And I mean, it's based on the book from Baltimore Sun reporter Justin Fenton, by the book of the same name, which really want to get Justin on this show. It would be amazing to kind of just pick his brain about all of this. And it's like you get a perspective of all parties in this show, from the cops, the dirty cops, the cops that are trying to do, their job, and then the cops that are just like scumbags. And then you also get the perspective of other people, from, the racial equality sectors of the police department. You get people coming in from out of town and learning about, the job that they have just been put on, and why it is going to drive you absolutely crazy. You get a perspective of a police chief who inherited this Baltimore police department, and like the struggles that he's going with, of like determining whether or not to pull dirty cops off of the streets and stuff like that. It's such a fascinating portrayal of something that is relatively recent in modern history. And for this to be the pilot episode, as good as it was, I can only imagine how this show is going to unfold over the next 5 weeks. It really, in my opinion, has the shot to be an all-timer from HBO. Like, it could be mentioned. And
I just talked about how HBO last week, Kyle, makes bangers.
You're not going to mention it in the same breath as The Wire, even though it's very similar stuff. But I think it's going to be in that elite pantheon of, the first, 7 seasons or 6 seasons of Game of Thrones that the masses absolutely loved. It's going to be in the same breath as, The Wire. It's going to be in the same breath as, The Sopranos, potentially. Like, in that elite tier, when you talk about, it's going to be in the same breath as Euphoria. Like, HBO has been putting out banger after banger after banger. People love the Mayor of Easttown. That was like family gathering, let's sit and watch mentality. I think this show is going to be in that same pantheon. I'm so excited to see how like they just continue to roll these episodes out. It is must-see TV. And Dylan and I don't throw that term around lightly ever. Like, obviously, we have our appointment TV, which is Marvel, Star Wars. It's on Mondays.
Okay.
It drops Mondays on HBO, and then it's on HBO Max as well. We have our appointment watching, our appointment television. This is must-see television. It is
next week.
Spectacular, so well scripted, so well written. The source material is obviously there, and it's something that like you and I, even though we weren't in Baltimore, we've lived this era of, the world, and it's really interesting stuff, and I totally cannot recommend it enough. I can't wait for you to watch the first episode, because it's so up your alley in terms of content and like things that you enjoy watching, that I know you're going to get an absolute like joy out of it. And the next 5 weeks, it's going to be like I'm going to be strapped in, ready to rock and roll and watch the show, because it's that good.
Dude, I'm very excited. I just literally been super busy at work, but I will watch it this weekend, the first episode, and then I'll watch the second one on Monday, and then we'll be able to talk about it like more in depth. But very excited. I hope anyone who's listening who watched that show, I hope you like it. Let us know. Just don't DM me any spoilers, because I would be really mean.
Stay spoiler free for Dylan. But literally on YouTube, if you guys are watching, comment down below, get the conversation flowing. There's been tons of you on Twitter reacting to just the trailer and your thoughts on the show and everything. We want this show to, this show feels like it's one of those hidden gems where it hasn't really been out there publicized. It hasn't really been out there for people to really see. But now that it's out there, because as soon as we put the tweet out 6 days ago, and once the episode finished on Monday, the tweet resurfaced again of us getting notifications about the show. So it's going to be one of those where people are going to continue to find this, and it's going to spread. And if we are the voice and the billboard for We Own This City, I'm fully ready to hitch our wheels to that wagon, because it's amazing. I'm giving this first episode a 9.5 out of 10. It's just so damn good, and I can't wait for more. It's one of those that leaves you on the edge of your seat. Fantastic cliffhanger ending, which I know Dylan loves, and
I do.
we Own This City is going to be appointment watching, must see TV, must discuss topic on this show for the next 6 weeks. So buckle in. It's going to be very fun over the next 6 weeks talking about this show. If you haven't watched the first episode already, go do it. What are you doing? It is the next hot show on HBO. So now, without any further ado, Dylan, let's get into everybody's favorite segment.
Did you freeze?
Whoop. There we go.
I didn't know if you were like being really still or you froze.
We got stuck in the multiverse for a hot second there. It is the Streaming Platform Multiverse news and notes brought to you by the homies over at Pickup. You guys can go to playpickup.com, start playing the hottest headlines in sports, build up your fan profiles, cash in those points for prizes at the Pickup Marketplace. Anybody can play. It's free to play. Playpickup.com.
Yeah.
Dylan, we have tons of news and notes this week. One that is going to have you very giddy, very excited because it's very recent news as of yesterday. The Batman 2 is officially in development.
You lied to me?
I swear to God.
Oh. Lord have mercy. I'm about to bust.
So the Batman 2 is in development. The question is, who do you want to see the villain be in the Batman 2?
Not a main one, so I don't want Joker yet. I would like Mr. Freeze, or I think Poison Ivy would be interesting. And I'm not. Mad Hatter would be kind of cool. I don't know. Two-Face would be cool too, but it's still too early where they haven't introduced Harvey Dent, so he wouldn't turn evil yet. So,
for me personally, this universe, the way that it's been,
Scarecrow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's who I wanted initially, but once again, I have to. My Batman lore is like it's all a blur right now. I don't know at this point if Crane, the scientist that is, or the doctor that is Scarecrow. I don't know if he's still just regularly practicing, you know what I mean? And like hasn't been outed yet as a legit psychopath or playing for their team.
Dylan, it obviously is. It's next week, man. It's next week. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The new TV
My birthday week.
The new TV spot, brother. They gave you an early birthday present. They confirmed the Illuminati is who we see when Doctor Strange walks through those doors.
Yeah, and speaking of Doctor Strange, if you go with the casting list, the actor from Ash vs. Evil Dead is in the acting list on IMDb, but he's not credited as himself. It's just blank.
Interesting
Because there is an MCU, the Marvel Zombie comics. He's the prequel to that. There's a whole like book of him, like how he's in the MCU, dies, and then but like it's technically, I guess, like canon. So my point is, I was like, does that mean there's gonna be zombies like confirmed with him?
Well, we did see zombie Doctor Strange.
That's true.
So that'll be interesting to see. But the Illuminati is confirmed to be MCU canon now, which is very, very exciting. We also have the big news that I teased to you earlier, Dylan, that I'm sure you're going to be giddy about. Kevin Feige, Papa Feige, he's headed to a Marvel creative team retreat.
Papa Feige.
Where they are planning out the next 10 years of MCU projects.
If I don't get fucking Nova you can bleep this out, Kyle. I don't care. No, I'm kidding. If I don't get Nova, Kevin, it's on site.
It's totally happening within the next year.
I know. I just want to threaten him a little bit.
We also have Johan Renck will direct the first 2 episodes of Dune: The Sisterhood for HBO Max. This is very timely because we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Johan Rank previously directed Chernobyl.
Ooh.
So he'll be working on the Dune show for HBO Max.
I like that.
Officially ordered by HBO Max is a spin-off show in the DCEU for Kite Man.
Yes, I saw that. Have you watched the Harley and Quinn show yet?
I haven't yet, it's on my watch list.
So funny. So funny.
Kite
Man, you would love Kyle. Kite Man's our kind of character because he literally just goes, "Hell yeah!"
And he was teased in Peacemaker, so
and he's very much an idiot in the Harley Quinn show. It's great.
Very excited. We also got the big movie announcement from Netflix. I don't know if you saw this, Dylan.
Netflix is on my poopy list. So what's up with them?
This will not be on your poopy list. This movie's called The Gray Man.
Oh, I saw
from the homies, the Russo brothers, who directed Avengers,
on Twitter about that.
Endgame, and Infinity War, starring the boy, the man, the myth, the legend, our Captain America, America's ass, Chris Evans. It's also starring. I don't know if you're ready for this, Dylan. Are you strapped in?
Is Michael Fassbender?
I wish it was. Who knows? But The Gray Man featuring Chris Evans. It also will be starring Ryan Gosling.
Ooh.
And somebody else I'm blanking on. Good grief.
Kyle, you're leaving me on suspense.
Suspense. Drum roll, please. Oh, Ana de Armas.
Isn't she in the new James Bond?
Yes.
Yeah. I need to see that movie.
So, the film has a $200 million budget.
That's not bad.
And the goal is to launch a James Bond level franchise.
That's funny. James Bond too.
So, here's the description here, too. For those of you who were fans of The Winter Soldier, this is us moving into that territory in a real-world setting.
Okay, so it's like going to be like that kind of vibe.
Which has me giddy as all hell.
I approve.
Very excited for that. The Gray Man coming to Netflix, I think in July, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, July 22nd, so it'll be out this summer.
I approve.
We have a new member of the MCU as well. Well, the Sony verse of the MCU. Bad Bunny. He's coming to the MCU, Dylan.
That's pretty cool, honestly. I did not see that coming. And that was just kind of one of those like random things that Kyle sent me, and I was like, what?
He will star as El Muerto in an upcoming Sony Marvel movie. Bad Bunny is the first like leading role Latino actor to star in a live action Marvel movie, which is very, very cool. I'm excited for this. I think it can be executed really well. Bad Bunny's really getting into the movie realm. He's going to be in that movie Bullet Train coming out this summer with Brad Pitt. For that. We got to go see that together because that movie is going to be awesome.
That looks like such a vibe.
So I'm very excited for Bad Bunny to officially step into the MCU. We also have some of the news that we love to do, guessing the first week viewership numbers, because the Batman, obviously, officially on HBO Max.
The Batman.
We have 7 movies here, Dylan. Where do you think the Batman falls in first week viewership numbers 1 through 7?
Number 1. No. I'm going to guess number 2.
Yes, number 2 at 4.1 million, only behind Mortal Kombat, which clocked in at 4.3 million.
I was going to guess Mortal Kombat as number 1 because it's one of those movies where no one like wanted to see it because they thought it was going to be like Oscar worthy. You just wanted to see it to get people beat the shit
Yeah.
out of each other.
And that was still in a realm where like movie theaters, it was like, are we good to go back? Like,
Hey, and we both watched Mortal Kombat and we enjoyed it, right? You watched it, right? Or no?
I did not
You
actually.
did not watch it. Okay, well, Kyle lied to me. No, I'm kidding. I watched it.
The Suicide Squad clocked in at number 3 at 3.5 million. Wonder Woman 1984 somehow clocked in at number 4 at 3.2 million. The new Matrix movie also at 3.2 million.
I heard the movie's literal dog shit.
Yeah, did not watch that one. Dune clocked in at 2.3 million, which is very surprising to me. And then the Snyder Cut at 2.2 million.
Huh. That's not bad.
Ewan McGregor said that he's down to return as Obi-Wan Kenobi in future projects. Sign me up.
Speaking of that, I saw a TikTok where they asked Oscar Isaacs if he wanted to be Poe Dameron again, and he went, nope. And then he was sitting next to someone who like directs. I dropped my shoes, so don't mind me. He's sitting. He responded with nope, and the person was like, not even the cat, not even for like a lot of money. And he said something like cashing in the checks. Very Oscar Isaacs.
That's amazing.
Cool. But he seemed pretty. He's an actor, obviously, but he seemed when he said no, I think he was very much serious.
Are you ready for this one, Dylan?
I'm ready.
This is via Deadline. J.J. Abrams will produce the live-action movie for Warner Brothers,
Spider-Man.
Hot Wheels.
Oh, what the fuck? Yo! You have to tell Zach Carbonero that, dude. He's the biggest. I'm putting him on blast. He's the biggest motherfucking Hot Wheels fan. I don't even know. Whenever we go out drinking and, like, you go back, you're chilling. Literally, his brain at that point of the night, he's like, let's watch Hot Wheels. And I'm like, no, bro. I'm going to go to bed. I don't want to watch Hot Wheels. So he's going to be there, dude. He'll be there opening Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That's incredible. Let's see here on my list. We also have a new member of Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer.
Another one?
Casey Affleck.
Jesus, is he collecting them? Is he Thanos, bro? He's collecting the stones?
It's so good. That movie is just going to be absolutely unreal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited because a lot of times you put a bunch of actors together and it can flop, but also it can produce a banger. Like, if you look at The Departed, that's quite a few good actors together, and that's one of the best movies of all time. So,
sign us up.
I just watched The Departed the other day. I was on TV. The ending always just it's wild.
Hayden Christensen, when asked if James Earl Jones is returning to voice Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi via Total Film, no comment. That means yes.
I love it.
That means yes, in my opinion. We also have Star Wars Tales of the Jedi in development. It's going to be a series of animated anthology shorts.
Ooh.
Andrew Garfield via Variety saying that he is taking a break from acting. Quote, I need to recalibrate and reconsider what I want to do next and who I want to be, and just to be a bit of a person for a while.
That's good for him.
But Andrew, we all know you're coming back for Spider-Man 3.
Yes, he's just taking a break. But no, actors deserve to take a break too. They are people. They are people. They deserve to have lives. They shouldn't be on movie sets putting on spandex or makeup 24/7 for 40 years in a row. They deserve little breaks,
We also have more confirmation of the building of the Batman universe. We obviously know about the Penguin series coming, the Arkham series coming, the Batman 2 in development, and then we're also getting Riddler Year 1.
That's fun.
And then we also have Dylan.
I know we differ on that movie, but I think we can at least agree. Anybody who watched it, the atmosphere and the world building, that's something we're really excited about, right? For that.
Totally excited about the world building. We got an official logo and name for the Blue People Avatar movie, the second one coming out that we will see footage of before
The most
Multiverse of
forgettable
Madness.
box office hit of all time. You can ask someone what the hell happened in that movie, and they're
Don't
like,
know.
The dude banged a blue chick.
I see blue people.
I'm not even making fun of that or not trying to be condescending or sexual. That's genuinely the only thing I remember is my man.
I remember they go in those like hyperbaric chamber pods, and then it's like, boom, we're in Jurassic World.
My man simped so hard he became a blue person and made love to Blue Lady. That's all my brain recalls of that.
When I saw this logo, Dylan, and the name of what this movie's going to be called, I literally thought it was like the next installment for the live action Avatar The Last Airbender studio stuff that's coming out, because this movie is called Avatar The Way of Water.
You're waiting for Earth, water, fire,
air.
However, the planet, I forget the order.
The four nations lived together in peace until the Fire Nation attacked. But it's called Avatar The Way of Water. And I truly thought this was like an Avatar The Last Airbender thing.
You Googled it and you saw the blue person, not Aang's bald head.
I clicked on the hashtag and I said, oh, that Avatar.
You didn't see Aang's bald head with the arrow. You were like, God damn it.
I was so confused.
You didn't see
this. Speaking of Oscar Isaac, he says that his Spider-Man 2099 in the Spider-Verse movie doesn't have a sense of humor. Quote, everybody wisecracks except this guy. He's a very serious Spider-Man.
I love that. It makes sense though. That time period's kind of weird. 2099.
Yeah. Trying to see if there's.
I was reading about Daredevil 2099 is Wilson Fisk's nephew.
Okay.
And then my nephew, something. His name's Samuel Fisk, and he becomes a villain. So
that's fun.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I had written down for this week. Oh, there was this really cool video that Kevin Parry on Twitter. He's a stop motion animator. Mm-hmm. He recreated the Netflix like opening video with yarn.
That's awesome.
Like how it does the to-doom and it like makes the end and then like blasts in your face. He recreated it with yarn and like different lighting and stuff. It looks so cool. What else do I have here? Anything of note? Oh, well, this will be a fun topic to end on. Well, this one, Venom 3 is officially in development. Let's go. Shout out to my boy.
My boy!
The two of the best MCU movies released in their respective year, a couple like Endgame released 3 years ago today. Well, yesterday as we record this on the 27th. So on April 26th, 3 years ago, Avengers Endgame happened. One of the greatest theater experiences of all time.
Yes, sir.
From your experience of the first few phases of the MCU, Dylan, who's your favorite portrayal of a comic character?
Doctor Strange. I think he kind of fits the vibe of the character. He's kind of in that echelon of like the Tony Starks of the world, where they're kind of witty, kind of a smart ass, but at the same time they're willing to be a team player. And Doctor Strange to me, it's also just one of my favorite like superheroes. So I just like, and then Benedict Cumberbatch to boot is also a crazy good actor. So it's just like it fits it. I would have said Thor because I like Thor, but our Thor is not actually like kind of like comic book Thor that much. Whereas I feel like our MCU Doctor Strange isn't completely out of line, you know what I mean, with his character, so it all kind of fits. How about you?
Me personally, I have to say Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. It's just an all-time portrayal. It's so unfortunate that, he passed away and everything, because he embodied the Black Panther and like took that role just to a height that I don't think anybody ever saw it reaching in terms of just like how well he was able to portray that character across the movies that he was in. And I think both you and I agree that like Black Panther is one of the greatest MCU movies of all time. And I think we'd also agree that, you know, we kind of kept one person out of because Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is one of the greatest casting jobs of all time.
That's like an easy out answer, you know?
Yeah.
I was trying to choose something not him.
And then some fun stuff, Dylan. I know you're a big comedy fan.
Yes.
There's a new Netflix comedy special with one of my favorite comedians coming out next week for your birthday week, May 3rd. Chris DiStefano, the Speshy Weshy, is coming out on Netflix.
But will it actually be comedy or will it be watered down like some of these current comedians?
Knowing Chris DiStefano, it is going to be banana land.
Yeah, I know.
Did I send you the intro to his one podcast episode recently?
Maybe no.
I will. I'll play it here for the people. Hopefully,
say no.
Hopefully, Chris DiStefano doesn't hate me for it.
I'll say no.
You're gonna die laughing. My dad died laughing at this. So this was the intro to one of his most recent podcasts.
What's good? This is the Chrissy Puerto Rico's app. We're in Puerto Rico having a good time. Look at the flag behind me. That's why I got an Islanders jersey on, because I'm an island boy in Puerto Rico, baby.
Oh, you just sent me this.
I'm so excited. Chris DiStefano is hilarious. For everybody that doesn't know Chris DiStefano, if you watched MTV's Guy Code back in the day, he was one of the main fixtures on that show. His podcast is hilarious. He's one of my white whales to have on any of our podcasts. He's fucking hilarious. So I will certainly be watching it. I think I'm actually watching it with our boy James Papiano because he's a big Chrissy D fan as well. So we're going to watch that on May 3rd. So big week next week in terms of the podcast and everything we're going to be talking about. We have the Moon Knight finale next week. We have the Chris DiStefano comedy special coming out on May 3rd. Moon Knight episode 6. We have Monday. We have another episode of We Own This City. Thursday, Cinco de Mayo, Cinco de Dylan. It's Dylan's birthday. So send Dylan all the happy birthday wishes on Thursday. Send him all of the PayPal, Venmo, Cash Apps for birthday snacks. So Friday he can eat in gluttony when we go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And then we'll be talking about that next week.
I'll drop those next week for all you beloved listeners.
Yeah, drop those in there. And Doctor Strange comes out next week. So we'll have tons of stuff to talk about. I feel like, you know, going into that at some point, maybe this weekend, I'll sit down and rewatch WandaVision because I feel like that might be like helpful going into this movie.
Yeah.
With everything, because it's been a while. It's obviously been over a year since WandaVision has come out, and this is one of our most highly anticipated movies going into this phase of the MCU. And obviously, it's not on a streaming platform yet, but because it details WandaVision, it details a lot of things from the Disney Plus shows. We are going to be talking about it on this show, and that's any Marvel property that ties in with any of the Disney Plus shows. It'll be discussed here on StreamerSZN. So be ready for the Multiverse of Madness topics for the next decade.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Dylan?
Dude, I'm just excited to A, see Doctor Strange, and B, see the finale of Moon Knight next week, and C, also finally watch the new show that we're talking about.
It's going to be fun. Make sure you guys are following us on the socials at StreamerSZN on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Dylan on Twitter at Dylan Mazzola. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feeds, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews with...
Sorry, I zoned out. This is I was reading an article about football. So yes, obviously, as we always say, and I always say, please leave reviews and recommendations for what you want us to watch. Obviously, Kyle and I have our hands full. We have two things on the docket right now until Moon Knight ends. Then we're going to devolve into We Own the City. But if you recommend something we both like, we could have We Own the City and said recommendation going forward.
Which we have like 3 shows in our catalog right now with Chernobyl, Eastbound and Down, and then the show that we got recommended last week on Peacock that I'm totally blanking on right now. I'm going to pull it up here because the boy Strebin killing it on Peacock. Those are in the docket, ready to rock and roll.
I need to log on Peacock.
I got it on the TV here, so you know, we'll make it work. But those three are definitely on the list, and anything else that comes through, the podcast feed that's immediate, we will watch it. And then that also applies for the YouTube comment section. Comment on YouTube, shows you want us to watch, movies you want us to watch, all that good stuff. Hit the like button, click the bell icon so you get notifications and you never miss an episode of StreamerSZN or any of your favorite Underground Sports Philadelphia shows. And of course, share with your friends. Be a friend, tell a friend, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really helps us out a lot and helps us continue to grow this media empire we're trying to grow here at Underground Sports. Big thank you to our sponsors. Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game, the best blue light glasses in the game. Go to TomahawkShades.com and use promo code USP for 25% off your order from our friends at Tomahawk Shades. Kenwood Beer, Dylan's favorite beverage of choice when he's watching Moon Knight and all of his favorite shows and movies.
Can confirm.
Go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. And, of course, Bino Board. Go to binoboard.com, BINHOBOARD.com, and use code BINOUSP for 10% off your order at binoboard.com. This has been another episode of StreamerSZN, the exclusive TV and movie podcast for streaming platforms on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For my fellow Cowabunga boy Dylan Mazzola, I'm KB. Till next week, keep on looking at the moon. Peace.
Cowabunga boys.